So as questions come up, please do. Denmark, look, Twerton upon Avon, don't even know where that is. Anyway, right, I'm going to start talking to you right now. I'll answer the questions as we go along. So let's get started. So wallpaper, as you can see behind you, I have lovely wallpaper in my house, and this is from my wife. So my wife, this wallpaper I'm showing you on the screen here is a collection called Palm Leaves, and this is a wallpaper that was actually my wife worked on. So she is a wallpaper designer. She used to work for a company called Cole and Sons, and this is quite a famous wallpaper she worked on. And she worked on a number of them over the years. In fact, my wife is an extremely capable woman. Here she is up a ladder with a drill. She does all of the DIY in my house. I'm useless at this kind of stuff. She is the capable one when it comes to any kind of power tool and kind of anything, getting anything done. So she started out in wallpaper design, realized actually there's more money in wallpaper hanging than there is in wallpaper design, believe it or not. If you've got a £2,000 roll of wallpaper, you don't want anybody hanging it. So she would specialize in very, very high-end wallpaper hanging. And so here she is, incredibly capable woman. Now, my daughter was born about 3 years ago, and she was about 3 weeks early. And still feeling like I need those 3 weeks of my life back. I've never quite caught up as to where we are now. My wife asked me, she's like, well, look, my daughter's been born early. I can't do it. Can you put up a picture in her room? Because we hadn't finished the nursery because we were, hey, we've got 3 weeks. We didn't have 3 weeks. So my wife asked me to put up a picture in her in the nursery. So I thought, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'll buy a drill. Because again, by this point, my wife had lent her drill out to somebody else. We didn't have a drill. We needed a drill. So I thought, right, okay, I can do this. I'm a man. I'm going to go and buy a drill. So I went to beinghuge.com, the website, DIY website. I thought I can buy this drill. Had a look around. Thought I like this one. It's yellow. I like yellow. Looks good. Okay. Started looking at this particular drill. You know, I read all the features. Look, it's got 15 torque settings, 1500 RPM. I had no idea what any of this stuff meant. Like most people do. What does any of these things mean? So I thought, okay, I'll look at the reviews. Safe place. If you're not sure what a product is, you're going to have a look at the reviews, don't you? Simple as that. And here's the review. The best drill ever from Heather. This has been the best drill I ever owned. I've actually built myself a new hay store for my horses. So if I thought, well, if Heather can build a hay store for her horses with this drill, I can put a simple picture up in my daughter's room. And as I was doing this, and honestly, it wasn't going well, this famous quote was going around my head. Does anybody know this quote? Do you know this quote? People don't want a 1/4-inch drill. They want what? What are they after? Again, this is a famous quote. This is from Theodore Levitt. He's a famous economist. Anybody know this? Care to check it in the Q&A? Yeah, they do. This famous quote is basically, people don't want a 1/4-inch drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole. And this is quite famous in terms of digital product design. Look, he's managed to open the door. See, that's a smart dog. Look, you can watch him now. You can watch him doing it. Can he do it? Is he going to get himself out? There we go. He's gone. Look at that. What a smart dog. Anyway, people don't want a 1/4-inch drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole. And this is quite a famous quote. And it's used a lot to talk about digital website and app product design. Now, let me tell you, as I was putting this picture up, this quote was going around my head. And I was thinking, actually, do you know what? I don't need a hole, because this is the result of the wall that I butchered with that drill. You can kind of see where I've got the drill bit size wrong, where it skidded and shifted along the wall. I'm not brilliant with the drill. And this quote was going on in my head, and I was thinking, I don't need a hole. Holes are really not what I need at this point. And again, hole's not the goal here. This is not the goal. Is not the hole here. This is obviously somebody digging a grave. Hole is not the goal. Fixing the streets, again, nobody needs holes in the streets. They need fixed water mains or fixed electricity cables, that kind of things. Escaping from prison. The hole is not the important part. Escaping from prison is the important part. So it got me thinking, the hole is not the goal in these situations. That famous quote about people not wanting the tool but the results is only part of the story. The hole is not the final goal. And for me, this was a bit of an eye-opener when I came to this realization that actually there's depth to this particular way of thinking. So I should introduce myself anyway. So my name is Joe. You can tell the last time I gave this talk was in India. Hello, Bath. Hello, Denmark. Hello, Atlanta. My name is Mr. Joe, but you can call me Joe. I have worked on a number of large-scale projects over the many years that I've been working in website and app design. I led the relaunch of Marriott.com in 2014, 38 countries, 16 languages. I led the redesign of Trainline.com in 2010. I led the redesign of parts of Money Supermarket in 2008. I worked on a number of projects. Most recently, this is what I do now with my compadre who's now left me, is I coach product teams and leaders to do the right things in the right order for the right reasons. I coach teams to make better decisions. I help them solve problems. I work with them long term to make their products better. And through this, I came across a theory about the same time as my daughter was born, and I was making awful holes in the wall, of a theory called Jobs to be Done. And Jobs to be Done for me was a real eye-opener. It helped me understand and think about what it is that people work on, what it is that people are really trying to achieve. Let's talk about it. So I was about that same time working with the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. So I was very lucky to be working with them. And I was working on a couple of things with them, two things, one of which was to reduce the size of the queues outside, which we did by improving their mobile site. But the second thing was we were trying to improve visitations and visits by New Yorkers. So there were lots and lots and lots of tourists visiting the Museum of Modern Art, but no New Yorkers. And MoMA were like, well, maybe it's the competition. And so we did a bit of a deep dive with New Yorkers. What is MoMA's biggest competition when it comes to New Yorkers? Who are they competing against? Stick it in the Q&A. Who do you think they're competing against? Have a think. Or put it in the chat. Who's MoMA's biggest competition? So when we're talking to MoMA about it, MoMA were like, oh, it's definitely the Met. It's the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Definitely. They're choosing between two art galleries. It's that. And then some of them were like, well, maybe it's not the Met. Maybe it's going to the theatre. Maybe it's, I don't know, doing another cultural thing in New York, like Empire State Building, or doing something that's very New York related. And the reality is we did some research and we looked at, well, the times that people visit MoMA, typically if you're a New Yorker, you go in the evenings because you're working all day, because most New Yorkers work, or you go at weekends. And now evenings are a classic one. Here is what was interesting. Yeah, the Guggenheim, another one that we're definitely competing against the Guggenheim. The reality is they weren't. Those were in essence, their direct competition. But the reality is when we did the research, we figured out MoMA were competing with Netflix. And this was a bit of an eye-opener for them because it was this classic situation of, oh, so we're competing with Netflix. Well, of course you are. So, you finish work, you're tired, it's a Friday night, you think, well, we should go let's go to MoMA. Yeah, let's go to MoMA. It's an effort to get on the subway to go into town to do it. We could go after work, yeah. And then they're competing for their time against Netflix. And Netflix are extremely good, as you all know, at maximizing your time. So you can, Netflix, one episode rolls into another episode, rolls into another episode. They're extremely good at capturing your attention when it comes to something to do on a Friday night. And MoMA and Netflix are both competing for the same job. I want something interesting to do with my partner on Friday night. Now, there are a number of other things that compete for that same job. But again, once you started looking at who the competition were through a slightly different lens, the lens of Jobs to be Done, you could start to see the opportunities that were there. You could start to see how MoMA could start talking about doing something interesting with your Friday night. Stop watching Netflix, go to an art gallery. Stop doing this, making it easy for people to come directly after work rather than having to go home and then come back on the subway. All of those things that were stopping New Yorkers from doing these things that Netflix was encouraging them to do. Sit on the sofa, before you know it, it's 10 p.m. and you've wasted your Friday night. MoMA attacked Netflix as a competition, as a competitor, to get people into their museum overnight. And it was a real opener for me. And Jobs to be Done talks about this concept of hiring a product or a service to do a job. The job we just talked about there is something to do on a Friday night. But what's interesting about the word hire is it suggests something that's temporary. So this Friday night, I might watch Netflix, but this Saturday night, I might go to MoMA. Every evening, all of these products are competing for that same job, something interesting to do with my partner tonight. And it's never a permanent thing. It's not like you watch Netflix every evening or you go to MoMA every evening. Every evening or every time you have to re-win that customer, to re-win your service for that particular job. And that is something that, for me, really attracted me to Jobs to be Done. And part of Jobs to be Done is this fantastic thing called the timeline here. And the timeline is a great way of thinking about how people interact with your service. Because again, you might see them for 2 minutes on your website or your app, but this is the reality of the way they're working is people are doing and going through these different phases when they're looking for a product or a service to meet a job. Okay, they're going for a phase called passive looking, where they may be talking about, what should we do Friday night? I don't know, what shall we do Friday night? Then an event might trigger them or push them into the next phase. Maybe that's the fact that it's Thursday, or they might get an email saying about a new promotion. There may be something that pushes them into the next event, or their partner might send them a text message saying, sort out Friday night, please. And then that moves them into the next phase, which is active looking, where they might hit Google, things to do on a Friday night. Something's kicking them off to move into a phase of actively looking for something to do for that particular job. And then an event might happen that then pushes them into the point of deciding, so they might think, well, maybe what should we do Friday? Should we go to the movies? Should we go to MoMA? I don't know. How do we do? You start having that conversation about two things that you're starting to work on. And an event will push you into that direction. That might be a time-based event. It might be something else that's there. But then something happens and then you hire that job or service to do that particular thing. Like, Friday night's here, let's go to MoMA. Or tickets are selling out fast, let's go and get a ticket for that movie. And then it moves you into the next phase. So what I love about jobs to be done in the timelines, it talks about phases, but also triggers that push you into that next step. And if you think about your product in terms of a timeline, it gives you so many opportunities to win and, of course, lose that particular customer. And what I love about the timeline is it can send you back to the start again. So you can go back to the start of that timeline and, at any point from any section of time, you can go back to the start, which is a great thing about the particular timeline. So back to our drills then. This stat made me, I'll say, supposedly the average power drill is used for somewhere between 6 and 20 minutes in its entire lifetime. Like, you're like, what? £99, £100 worth of electronics, 6 minutes, 6 and 20 minutes in its whole lifetime. Now that, obviously there are professionals who use drills for, doing professional work, but most drills are sold to amateurs like us. And this stat is true of many of us. And it's interesting as you look at this timeline and you look at my experience with the drill, is I'd actually bought that drill, but then it hadn't worked for me. I'd not managed to put that picture up because the drill wasn't working for me. So I actually got to this point where I jumped back further in that timeline, back to something else to find another solution for that particular job. And this happens all the time in digital product design. It's called a little higher. So it looks on the surface like a win. So yeah, we've sold a drill, or yeah, somebody's downloaded our app. But the reality is in these situations, here's something talking about apps. 25% of downloaded apps are used only once. This is called the little higher within jobs to be done. It looks like a win, but the reality is it's a loss. You spend all that time and effort winning that customer, getting them to your website, getting them to download your app. They open it once and they never come back. And this can be a real weakness for many apps and for many startups. Immediately, they look successful initially, but the reality is longer term, there's no success here because they can't keep and maintain those customers. There's nothing in the timeline they're working towards in terms of doing something. Back to this then. So the whole is not the goal. For me, this was the big problem with my drill. Okay, and it's sent me back to the start of that timeline again. So when it comes to jobs and jobs to be done, there's three types: functional, emotional, and social. Okay, functional jobs we are good at explaining. Okay, we get this. So functional jobs are putting the picture up. That's a functional, easy to understand job. If you write user stories in the work that you do, if you design software now, you're all over functional stuff. Your app does this thing, and that's fine, and that gets you to a certain point. But the real strength of jobs to be done is in the emotional and social jobs that go alongside it. And so you can start to look at, you compare job stories to user stories. So again, this is a way of writing down these job stories. Job stories are richer. They've got a lot more going on. They give you the wider context. They're a lot more useful when it comes to marketing, designing, creating products. They're not so good for building from. Here's a user story on the right-hand side. User stories are descriptive. They have to be very solid. They have to be very structured. They're not brilliant for understanding how to market a product. They're amazing for building it, but they are different things. And the job stories can complement user stories, but they're slightly different. You can see the richness there in terms of that user story. But what I like about jobs to be done is the emotional stories. And I love that element of it too. And part of understanding the functional job is the whole not being the goal is this concept called the ladder interview. Okay, 5, or sometimes called the 5 whys in Lean UX. And you can start to layer in what the functional job is to understand what that functional job is by asking the same question, why? So why are you buying a drill? Well, to make a hole in my wall. Very Theodore Levitt so far. Why are you making a hole? To put up a picture. Why are you putting up a picture? To make my daughter's nursery look good. Why do you need to make your daughter's nursery look good? Because my wife is due to give birth in 2 weeks and the clock is ticking. And you can start to see when you layer and go further and higher on this ladder, these 5 whys, you can start to see truly what it is your customers are trying to do. So what this drill is competing with in this case could be a handyman coming in and with a service which is, do your kids' nursery. I will design and I will make your kids' nursery for you exactly when you need it. Because again, you may not be able to do that because of having your child coming early. You can start to see how different products and services compete for the same job by asking the question why 5 times to really get back to the root of what is going on. And that's what I love about Jobs to be Done, is it gets you right back to the root of what's going on. You can ask the question why 5 times here, but you're going to get a bit weird. Full depth here gives you plenty in terms of that. I've got a blog post here about which I'll drop in the chat or the Q&A if I can do that. I don't know if I can do that. Once dismissed. Anyway, I'll put that in the chat if it's there for this particular question here. PDF stream 1 to all panelists and attendees, and it goes there. Okay, moving on then. Let's talk about social and emotional jobs. In fact, let's keep talking about functional jobs. So what drills are very good at is functional jobs. These are selling in a functional way. You can start to see from this drill, clearly it's talking functional and only functional. Charge time 60 minutes, amp rating 4 amp hours. Don't even know what that means, don't care. Masonry drill capacity 30 millimeters. You start to stick to functional jobs and people start to judge your product and buy your product on functional jobs. So I start to look at this and go, well, the charge time of this one's 60 minutes versus the charge time of this one being 45 minutes. I don't care what the charge time is. What I care about is how easy is this thing to put a picture up with. So we start to move then into emotional jobs. Okay, and emotional jobs, another strength of Jobs to be Done is you start to talk to people on a different level. When I'm putting up the picture, help me to not feel stupid or overwhelmed so I don't have the skills, so I can feel confident that I can finish this. You can start to see how I'm feeling when I'm putting this particular picture up. Feeling overwhelmed, that drill's not helping me with those things. It's not helping me with the skills to put a picture up. I didn't even know I had to buy wall plugs for this stuff. It was a difficult thing for me to have to do. Thankfully, YouTube helped, but still it wasn't really what I needed. And then you can start to think about the social jobs as well associated with it. When I'm 6 months in, make sure it doesn't fall off the wall so I don't look incompetent in front of my friends and family and feel like I've done a good job. I don't look stupid in front of my wife when that picture falls off the wall because she's going to look at me like, come on, seriously? So the reality of this is the strength and a lot of the work that you do with Jobs to be Done can be summed up in the social and emotional jobs. You can talk to your customers on a different level. Anybody can talk to them about functionally what your thing does, but if you can talk to them about the social aspects of what you do, the emotional aspects of what you do can really, really help you to further talk to them on a very, very different level. And if you look at other drill manufacturers, so our drill return, this is the drill that was lent out. It was a Bosch. It's a good one. It came back to us and I looked at the box and look, still same thing here. Look, it can do 230 screws. Wonderful. It's compact. It's got 2 gear drives. It's got, I don't know what that means. Again, it's all talking about function. It didn't help me. And clearly what's happening in the drill world is each drill manufacturer is focusing on competitors and features. We've got 26 torque functions. We've got 27 torque functions. Ours goes up to 10. Well, ours goes up to 11. If you've watched Spinal Tap, you know it's meaningless that your thing is one functional thing better than the other one. It doesn't mean anything. And this is what happens when you fall into the feature trap. You start competing with competition about, well, this is better than theirs because we've got this feature and they haven't got this feature. You're never going to win in that situation. You need to look at what users are trying to do and their jobs, the social jobs, the emotional jobs, to help further understand what it is they're trying to do, to design a product around that. And so what did I do? Well, I found a product that worked. This is what I ended up using. Okay, Unibond. No more nails, removable strips, Velcro strips. You stick them on the wall, stick the picture to them, done. Really simple, straightforward things. Now, if you look at the packaging here, they are talking to the social jobs and the emotional jobs as well. You can start to see what they're talking about here. Up to 2 kilograms per strip. It's telling you it's strong. It's not going to fall off the wall. There's strength there. My pictures are not 2 kilos. They're removable. So if I get it not straight, I can take it off and put it back on again. If I'm living in a rental property, no problem. I'm not going to mark the walls. I have to drill a hole to do that. I can use it indoor and outdoor. I can see how easy it is. I've got 5 of them there. This product talks to me not only on a functional level, but on a social and an emotional level as well. And obviously, it's far cheaper than a drill. This was like £3-4. Yet They're both trying to do the same job. Now, arguably, you can talk about drill doing many other things for professionals, but the reality is most consumers buy drills to do stuff like this. And there's no way in the world Bosch would have come up with this product. There's no way in the world they would have done this, because they're not thinking about the jobs their customers are trying to do in that same way. They're really not thinking about it on that same level. Yet these folks really are. They're doing a fantastic job here. So this is what I love about jobs to be done. Any thoughts on this? Drop it in the chat. Any questions? Drop it in when we go, the chat or the Q&A. Happy to sort of look at each of them. I love that. I'm looking at the chat now. Netflix say their biggest competitor is sleep. I can definitely see that. Audio problems? I think everything should be okay in terms of audio. Hopefully it is. You can hear me okay. Anyway, let's keep going. All right. Let's talk about some other bits of jobs to be done that I like as well. So some of the tactical things. So part of jobs to be done we can talk about is this concept of the 4 forces or the 4 powers. And these 4 powers are a key way of thinking about how to pull or to get your competitors to switch away from your competitor to your product. Okay. And there are 4 forces at play here. So 2 of them are push and pull. So one of them is pushing me away from my drill is I don't need holes. That drill was pushing me away because it was difficult to use. I created holes in my walls. It was not helping me fulfill that job. It pushed me away. The pull of a new solution is dragging you towards the new thing. It's only £3. It looks easy. So pulling me towards No More Nails was a great cheap option. Then if you look at the other 2 forces around side that, you've got things like anxiety. So anxiety is things of what could happen. What if this thing falls off the wall? What if my picture falls off the wall? And again, that's pulling me back to the drill. Okay, well, with a drill, it should be really solid because I'm putting a plug, it's going to be a solid thing. These sticky things, maybe not as solid. But then you've got another force, which is inertia and attachment. Okay, I should be able to use a drill. I'm a man. I've already bought this drill. I've got a sunken cost in this. I should be able to use this drill. And these forces are pulling your customers away from their current version to you, and equally away from you to a competitor. So if you understand these 4 forces and you can map these 4 forces out for you versus a competitor, it can really help you understand to get people away from what they're using for that particular job. Okay, you can start to see how this works for Momo versus Netflix, or a challenger bank like Monzo versus Lloyds Bank. You can start to see how, if you populate this for your product, you can understand where you sit in the sales landscape and how you can pull people away from the things that they are already using for that particular job. And if you look at the stronger forces, which are the 2 at the bottom, the yellow ones, the 2 stronger forces are keeping people where they are. So you might have the most amazing brand new product in the world, like No More Nails, but you're going to struggle to get market fit, market traction if you're not dealing with the push and the pull at the top. Those push and pulls have to be really strong to overcome the anxiety and inertia at the bottom. You need to understand the interplay of these 4 forces to help you really truly understand how to get people to and from your particular product. All right, let's keep going. So part of what Jobs to be Done is good at is somebody gave me an hour to solve a problem. I'd spend 55 minutes defining the problem and then 5 minutes solving it. This fantastic quote from Albert Einstein sums up what's great about Jobs to be Done is you spend a lot of time understanding what the problem is, defining what the problem is, and then when it's time to design the solution, it's much, much easier because you've got a full, true picture of what's going on in terms of the product itself. Okay, works extremely well for that. And what's also great about Jobs to be Done is it fits really nicely into design sprints. So you can take a job story and you can take it into a design sprint. Okay, works really well as a well-formulated, thought-out definition of the problem that you can take into a design sprint to come up with a solution. So it fits extremely well with Google Ventures design sprints. Other great things about Jobs to be Done is it's also extremely friendly to the C-suite. So it's really great for senior leaders in organizations because it's got Harvard Business Review articles written about it. It's a user-centered design approach that's got a business-friendly sheen around the outside of it. So it can really help you if you're struggling to get in a larger organization to get traction with, we need to design things for our users. Jobs to be Done can help reframe what you're trying to do into something that's extremely business-friendly in terms of that stuff. That's what I love about Jobs to be Done. Oh, by the way, I did get the picture up. So it's up there in my daughter's room next door. I used those on my nails. Here's the picture. It is straight. It is of Bristol. I'm very happy with it. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. If you've got any questions, drop them into the chat there right now. I'm running a jobs to be done training workshop in a couple of weeks. So if any of you are interested, I will give you a discount code if you drop me an email. So I'm running this in 3 weeks' time. You can come along, buy a ticket, and we'll learn a lot more about jobs to be done in my training workshop, which is coming up in November. Here's the link here. I'll drop that in the chat. Can I ask a question? Don't know if I can. Okay. Please do come along to this as well. I've got all of my slides from this particular talk are here, including a video of me talking about this, as well as lots of articles about jobs to be done. That's this address up here. Stay in touch. Any questions about jobs to be done? Rachel, where do the why questions fit in? So yeah, good question, Rachel. Let me go back to that. So let me talk about that in a bit more detail. So the why questions are, where are they here? What the why questions allow you to do is to get to the true job that somebody's trying to achieve. So I talked about the MoMA versus Netflix element there. You ask that question why 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you get deeper. So why are you buying a drill? Why? What to make a hole? Why are you making a hole? To put a picture up. So you can ask the why question to your customers to get a true picture of what it is they're actually trying to achieve, to get to the true root of what they're trying to do to get there. So again, maybe you work for a university. Why are you going to university? Well, I want to learn. Why do you want to learn? Well, I want to get a job. Why do you want to get a job? Because I want a career. You can start to pitch your university courses around a career rather than education. You can start to talk to them on a level that fits them a little bit better in terms of what they're trying to do. Asking the question why 5 times gets you deeper into that job, that true need that you're looking to address. Quite simply, can give you an insight that's going to come up with a way of designing product features or specifications or ideas or marketing material that's going to be innovative. It's going to be the stuff that's going to transform the way your business works if you ask that question 5 times, to keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper back to the root job that people are trying to do. Any more questions? I would ask those why questions early on, actually. They're a good thing to do in terms of user research. Ask those why questions early on. Any more questions? Any thoughts or more questions, folks? Any more? Drop them in the Q&A. Should a product seek to perform multiple jobs? Yes. That's a good question, Phil. Should a product seek to perform multiple jobs? Yes, definitely. You can look at a drill. Again, classically, it tries to do many, many, many things. And it can be good at some of them, but obviously your product's got to do a number of different jobs. There'll be some core jobs that it absolutely has to do, but you can then start to look at and organize those jobs around. So you can use it in the same way. I like to talk about it in terms of user stories. So you can have epic jobs and then you can have sub jobs beneath that. You can have 2 or 3 or 4 epic jobs and sub jobs beneath that. So a good example of that is I worked for the credit card channel at Money Supermarket. And the job initially seemed to be, well, I want a credit card. Well, what kind of credit card do you want? Do you want a credit card to shift a balance from an existing debt? Do you want a credit card to buy something new? Do you want a credit card to earn points, earn air miles? They're all very different jobs that you can use a credit card to do. And we had to design our product to meet those 3 different jobs differently. But once you understand what the jobs are, you can start to prioritize and truly figure out which ones are the most useful ones that you should be solving. So yes, there'll be multiple jobs. Yes, it should do that. How many jobs? Typically between 20 to 40 can be about right in terms of the jobs that a product ends up doing. There's small subtle jobs from things like send me a text message to confirm through to, help me find something to do on Friday night. So they can be at all levels, from larger, more important, ill-defined jobs right through to concrete, smaller jobs alongside it. And which ones to tackle first? Well, the ones that clearly come through in terms of user research as the ones to go with first, the ones that are coming through the loudest. You can start to use some prioritization frameworks to understand that. I talk about that in my workshop a lot, is how to prioritize the jobs, to decide which ones to choose from. There's a number of prioritization frameworks you can use, from Kano through to Pi, through to many others that I'll happily share some links to at the end of this. But again, I talk about that quite a lot in my workshop. But a good prioritization framework can help. If you've got the jobs defined, you can start to see how well those jobs are, other products and services in the market meet those jobs, how well your product and service meets those jobs, how frequent that job is, how much value that job has. There's a number of criteria you can use to assess that job to decide which ones you're going to address and tackle first. But it really depends on the industry you're working in and what kind of commercially or otherwise drives your business in terms of metrics and measurement. That's the best way to think about it. But there's a number of different things. If you want to drop me an email, Phil, we can chat more about those if you like. But it's a bit of an art prioritization, but there's more I can talk about that at a later date. Okay. Any other questions? Kano, yeah, it can work pretty well with Kano. Kano is a prioritization framework. If you don't know it, it's about sort of effectively put jobs on or tasks or features on a two sets of scales in terms of importance and utility. I believe are the two. Any more questions? Do shoot them in the chat right now. Any more, folks? Did Momo manage to get New Yorkers away from Netflix? Yes. So any of you who are of a certain age like me in the UK, if you remember a TV program called Why Don't You go out and do something more interesting with your life, was pretty much the approach we took with Momo. So we talked about the campaigns we were looking at were just go and do something better with your Friday nights. You know, a lot of imagery around people just sat on sofas looking at TVs, you know, making more of the fact people should get out of their house and enjoy New York on their doorstep. And it did work for them. They got a lot more New Yorkers because a lot of their funding was associated with a lot of their trustees gave them money based on the fact that it was a resource for New Yorkers, when the reality was something like 80% of visitors to MoMA were international tourists. But yes, they did get better at it in terms of preparing and doing things better on the evenings. So they would allow events only for New Yorkers, or certain evenings only for New Yorkers. They give priority access to New Yorkers. There's lots of things they worked at in terms of how it worked. But the big campaign was get up off that couch, go to MoMA instead. And it worked really well for them. Any more questions? Oh, it's more. Here we go. Suitable replacement for user stories. No, I wouldn't replace it. I think it complements user stories really nicely. So user stories are still important if you're doing estimation, point scoring and things like that. A job story and a user story can coexist alongside each other. The two should support each other. But they're much better for designers because they give a richer context about what's going on. They're much better for marketeers, for content writers, for people who are doing more of the creative elements of what's going on. For developers, they're not often concrete enough. So I'd say job stories work really strongly alongside user stories. I wouldn't say give up with them. You read a lot about replacing them, user stories, replacing them with job stories. I wouldn't say so. I think they complement each other really nicely. Please do shout if there's any more questions. Okay, folks. Okay, well, do come along to my Jobs to be Done training if you'd like to learn more. I talk about how to basically roll jobs to be done out into an organization. We do some practical exercises about using it. We effectively try and put this into action for an organization. So you can come and do that in November. So we do that over the course of 2 weeks in November. So come along to my training workshop. It'd be good to see you all there. Great. Any more questions? Any more? Last chance. Otherwise, I'm going to say goodbye. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, everybody. So you can find... Oh, thanks, Adam. Adam's put the correct URL in there. Thank you. Please do come along to my training workshop. There it is, right there. Hopefully, I'll see you in a couple of weeks for that. All my slides are at this address here, mrjoe.uk/jobs to be done. All of this, loads more resources for free, loads of great stuff about using jobs to be done. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. So thank you. Thanks for all the thank yous in there as well. Thanks very much. Great. And I'll see you all again soon. Enjoy the rest of Bath Digital Festival. Thank you very much, Becky, for your time. Don't know if she's in there, but thank you all very much for your time, everybody, and I'll catch you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.